Mets beat the Phillies at home. The offense is getting hot, and Francisco Lindor is on a roll to start his 2025 season. We are discussing this right here on the True Mets Talk podcast. All right, what's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to the True Mets Talk podcast. Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy CP, and we're talking about the New York Mets, their win streak, and Francisco Lindor, the unofficial, official captain of the New York Mets, rewriting some of his career history thus far in this season and getting off to a fantastic start in the month of April. And we'll do some comparing and contrasting on some of those April splits here in just a second. But before we fully get into this video, please do smash those thumbs up buttons. If you enjoy the content on this channel, all the streams and the videos and everything else in between related to the New York Mets, please do smash the thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And comment your thoughts and opinions down below about how Francisco Lindor and the New York Mets are doing in 2025. How do you feel, ladies and gentlemen, now that the New York Mets are tied for first in the entirety of the NL with a 16-7 record alongside some of those elite NL West teams? Francisco Lindor has had a huge part in this 5-game win streak as of recently. Again, I'm recording this on April 22nd, following such an electric victory, a little bit closer than it needed to be. Final score being 5-4. Edwin Diaz was able to lock it down after surrendering a 3-run home run in the 9th inning. But production all across the board. A lot of Mets fans were a little bit worried about the lineup and how they were going to turn it around. Not if, but when. And now, over the last 7 days, we are seeing immense production from not only Francisco Lindor, Pete Alonso in that same stretch is batting 333. Luis Angel Acuna in that same stretch is batting 353. Brett Beatty in that same stretch is hitting 313. Everybody seems to be coming around and getting the job done. And Brandon Nimmo also seems to be showing a little bit of sign of life. And it is awesome to see this lineup continuously clicking on all cylinders. And we have to talk about Francisco Lindor, which is actually the premise of this video, because we all know Francisco Lindor and the type of ball player that he is, finishing second in NL MVP voting, only behind Shohei Ohtani in the 2024 season. And that was even after such a dreadful start to his season in the first month and a half. And we'll get into that here in just a second. But let's take a look at Lindor's numbers over the last 7 days, and also the 2 home runs that he actually hit yesterday to help put the Mets over the top of the Phillies with 4 RBIs, accounting for 4 of the Mets' 5 RBIs in that game. In the last 7 days, he's had 29 at-bats. 11 of those have resulted in hits. He is one of Major League Baseball's best leadoff hitters to begin the game with a base hit. And that is actually back-to-back games where he's led off the game with a leadoff home run. So it is awesome to see the powers coming through. The extra base hits are coming through. You see the 7 RBIs at the top of the lineup. So not only is he being a table setter for Soto, Alonso, Nimmo, Vientos, etc. Winker, if he finds himself in the top 5 as well, with that 438 on base percentage, he's actually driving runners in, and you see the OPS collectively at over 1,200, which is absolutely phenomenal. But where this differs for Francisco Lindor, because again, even going back to the Cleveland days when he was over there in that uniform, it was always known that he was a little bit of a perpetual slow starter. And that could not be any more different than what he's producing this season. You see the year-to-year splits here in the month of April going back in 2024. You look at all those numbers in red in comparison to this April in 2025, when we still have a handful of games left to go, as I said, recording this after the game that took place on April 21st. But 25 hits collectively in this month in 2025 of April, 12 RBIs, 325 batting average, a 379 OBP, and the OPS is over 950. It's awesome. And you take a look at how he was able to recuperate, because those numbers in April of 2024, let's not forget he was still batting in that 3-hole spot before the New York Mets inevitably made the switch to put him to that leadoff spot, in lieu of moving Brandon Nimmo down a little bit into the middle of the order, maybe trying to get a little bit more production from Brandon Nimmo, and just taking Francisco Lindor back to what he did very well in Cleveland, being in that leadoff spot. And in April in 2024, he struggled mightily with a 210 batting average, an OBP that was under 300, and an OPS that was at 685, under 700. It's night and day different. And the beautiful thing about this right now is that we know that Francisco Lindor, what he did in the summer and later months, especially down the stretch to help the Mets and basically will the Mets into a playoff spot, he was able to do all of that with such an abysmal start in 2024. So now that he's actually gotten going and he has this month under his belt and he doesn't need to start pressing or changing anything up or moving down in the order, moving different spots, he is consistently going to be the New York Mets leadoff hitter, right? And I think that that has done him wonders. And the fact that he is producing right now, because again, March, when the season began, the early goings of April, still a little bit of an adjustment period, but slowly and surely, he's putting together competitive at bats. He is doing all of this with such immense confidence. The walk-off home run against the St. Louis Cardinals, you saw that and what that did for him and the stadium collectively on that Friday night. And it just seems like we are getting an unlocked version of Francisco Lindor this year with this hot start in comparison to some of the other seasons in which he's put up great numbers collectively over the course of 162 games, but with those slower starts. This is a season where you can finally expect Francisco Lindor to put together a full season's worth of great games. And he's going to be right back in the top 3 of NL MVP voting, if I had to imagine, based off of what we're seeing here. Now, there's a lot of season left to play. I know this video is a little bit premature, but if you're a Mets fan and you see these numbers, the compare and contrast, it has to make you excited. It has to make you excited because for the most part in his Mets tenure thus far, we have not seen this April version of Francisco Lindor. Not to this extent, at least. So what a hot start for the New York Mets, improving to 16-7. What a hot start from Francisco Lindor. Let's keep it rolling. Game 2 is going to be tonight between the Mets and the Phillies. Griffin Canning is getting the ball for the New York Mets, and they're looking to improve to 10 games over 500 for the first time in 2025. Let's go Mets. Again, smash on that like button, subscribe to the channel. If you enjoy this content, if you enjoy the analysis, if you enjoy the excitement of being a Mets fan in the year 2025, make sure to check the channel out. See you all later. Peace.